All right, good morning, everybody. This is Cade Archibald, co-founder and COO of Go Wellness, and I am very excited and honored to be on the webinar today. And we're going to be jumping into some really cool stuff on some really good basics and foundational things on functional medicine and clinical nutrition. And we're gonna have some awesome stuff going on. Just so I have a good gauge on everybody, if you have any questions or anything specific you want me to cover today, shoot me a message in the text box or in the chat box, and I will try to make sure I cover that. Today you're going to primarily hear from me. Reagan may poke his head into the webinar. We had another practitioner that had jury duty actually, and so his schedule, he had to fill in for a couple patient visits. So he may be poking his head in a moment. So, but I'm going to be handling this today. So you guys are in for an amazing treat. So just a few things before we get started. This is going to be you should be getting an email within the next couple days to register for our more specific and specialized webinars. So we'll do them at the same date and times, but they will be more individualized for clients or for guests. I know we got both of you on here. We got a few different guests and quite a few clients on right now. And so for you clients, you'll have a specific, based on what program you have, you'll have a specific webinar that you'll be invited to, and that's going to be exclusive. We want to get a lot more interaction and Q&A resolved, and make sure we're providing as much guidance and coaching and helping you grow exponentially over the next year or so. So that's coming up next week. So be expecting some new webinar links. We'll probably have a little bit different platform as well. As for the guests that are on the line, if you are enjoying these webinars and you want to know how you can get more involved with Go Wellness, shoot me an email at info@gowellness.com. I'll be more than happy to start some dialogue there and see what type of things you'd qualify for with us, or we will have a monthly or bi-monthly webinar for guests as well, but that'll be separate. So that way our clients, we can really dive in and help solve all the world's problems. So at Go Wellness, I hope you guys were really inspired last week and the week before with Reagan, and we've really talked about our new mission and our new overall goal. So for Go Wellness, and we hope you guys can all jump on this goal with us, or this mission, and really help us accomplish this. But our mission is to help 1 billion people be free of pain and chronic disease by the year 2050. So we've broken down the math, and it's very doable if we get every one of our clients and connections and our the clinics and the interactions that we have with other people, if we can influence better lifestyles, if we can influence just better health, we can accomplish this goal. Not easily, but it's very obtainable. And so that is our really exciting, we call it our wildly important goal that we're trying to shoot for with all of our patients and all of you guys as other practitioners. So thank you guys for joining us today. I'm really honored to be going over some of this stuff. So let's jump in. So the title today: How to 10x your results with functional medicine and clinical nutrition. So we're going to talk a little bit on the practitioner side. I'm also going to touch on just a few basics on how you can get people in that need to be treated for some of these things as well. So first thing when you're looking at insurance, so that's one of the first questions that we get asked when it comes to functional medicine from patients. All right, well, does my insurance cover it? And when it really dials down to it, insurance is all based on medical necessity. And so, we always wonder, okay, why is our healthcare system so messed up, and why do we have all these chronic illnesses and chronic diseases? At the end of the day, if we're basing everything on medical necessity, and the definition of medical necessity is care that seeks, if you're looking at care that seeks to prevent disease, promote health, and prolong and enhance the quality of life, is not considered medically necessary. If you look at that, well, no wonder we're in a healthcare crisis. And that's straight from Medicare. And so, I would challenge you guys to use this slide when you're presenting to patients as well. It'll help them be a little more open-minded to it, because when you really look at it, insurance is designed as sick care, which I think everyone should have some sort of insurance to protect themselves from catastrophic events or certain things. But at the end of the day, all you're doing with these large insurance plans is you are paying someone else. You're paying a middleman to manage that, and then they get to choose. They ultimately dictate your care. It's not your doctor. So in my opinion, I would rather have my doctor dictating my care and giving me what he thinks best, not what he's going to get paid by insurance for. And so those are some key things that you want to look at and want to jump into when you're going over some of these things. Some other things about our health crisis. You guys all know these statistics, but we're up to 4.6 trillion in 2020 is what they're expecting our spending to be on government health care. And so that is a big chunk of money. And I think if you guys haven't had a chance yet, you got to listen to Reagan's podcast. It's on Go Wellness Radio. He just, I think it just published a couple days ago, but it was with Naveen Vain. He's the founder and CEO of Biome. That's Viome. You can actually check them out at biome.com. They have some pretty amazing, hopefully you guys can see this. We actually have there's a code that you can use, and you can put in Go Wellness if you decide, hey, that's something I want to look into. But it ultimately, what it's doing is ultimately what he's done is he's looked at, okay, this is like $1 trillion problem in the U.S., and I want to solve that problem and make chronic disease, illness, some of these, as they're more of an option rather, people can choose to have them, or you can have all the information and data that you need. And so he uses artificial intelligence with your genetics as well as your microbiome. So you send in a test twice a year. I think it's $600 for all the 4 tests that you run, which we're going to start utilizing these more in our clinics. Let's see. Someone said you can't see it. You can't see the link, or you can't see the slides. So we'll make sure we got everybody on here. Let's see. Okay, yeah, so the link is just Biome. Here, I'll put in a text box right here. So this is, if you guys want to go check them out, I recommend at least looking at it. Their website doesn't have a significant amount of science, but what they're using is your microbiome and genetics, and using artificial intelligence to sequence that, and then they'll give you exact foods that that you can utilize, and a lot of great stuff. So different foods, diet plans. So we can use these in our clinics as practitioners to really help increase our outcomes, and it'll make our jobs a little bit easier. And so I'd suggest check them out, try it out. I've actually, I just ordered my kit this morning, and really excited to see how it works out. And we'll talk more about it once we get our results in and everything, but pretty interesting. But if you think about it and you look at how our healthcare system's addressing our current healthcare crisis, I really like this slide because it shows how fragmented it is. So if you think about Biome and testing your microbiome with your genetics and some of those things, we're starting to see all this technology come out with genetics and genetic testing. And you've heard us talk a lot about your methyl detox pathways and MTHFR, COMT, and some of those factors. But when you look at, if you just pigeonhole yourself right there in genetics, you're not necessarily going to get anywhere. So that's why we like Biome. They're mixing genetics with your microbiome. But how our healthcare system today is working is, you look at this and you have, you have pills here, you have a pulmonologist, maybe you have a radiologist. They're not talking to each other. And we all know, your gut health is essential to have good brain health. And so if your gastroenterologist is not talking to your neurologist, which I'd be very surprised to find a place that has that happening consistently, besides more of a functional medicine clinic, you're not going to get results with your patients. And so you really have to look at all the different systems and all the different aspects of their body and understand how everything's linked, because if you're not getting to the root cause, you're not going to solve the problem. You're just going to be masking it with pills and different things like that. So really the new genre of healthcare is your health is ultimately your responsibility, but nobody suffers alone. The reason why we say nobody suffers alone, so it really has to do with how it's affecting other people. Because you think about if you're sick, or if your health's not right, how does it affect your spouse or your loved one, your children, some of those factors. So we owe it to not only ourselves but to our loved ones to really have optimal health and help other people have that optimal health. Because if they don't, it impacts, it's a whole, it's just like that ripple effect. You throw a rock in the water and those ripples affect the whole lake. It's the same exact thing when we aren't impacting that patient in a good way. If we can impact them in a good way, that's how we can get to that billion mark. Impacting one person's life that's a very influential person, they can influence a significant amount of people. But on the opposite, if we don't and their health declines, that can potentially affect other people as well. Number two, 90% of what happens to us is because of what we do on a daily basis. So you guys have all heard Reagan talk about the mindset morning. And I hope if you haven't had a chance to look at that video, go to our YouTube page on it's East West Health and search for Mindset Morning. And it's about I think it's maybe 5 to 10 minute YouTube video on how to set up your morning. Your mindset is so key, and so doing some mindful meditation, how you start the day, how you're visualizing the day, those can be huge. Number three, the body has the ability to heal itself. We all understand and know this, and so if we give it the right tools and right ingredients, we can really help our body accomplish some amazing things. No pill, surgery, or health secret is going to fix you. I really like this one. Everyone's looking for the magic, secret sauce or the secret protocol that's going to just completely change their life. and in all reality, it's not out there. It's really looking at what that person's doing, what their body looks like, what their internal physiology looks like, and coming up with a solution to help them uh, uh, overcome those barriers. The brain controls the body, and all the organs must work together. Proper communication is necessary. We have one goal in our office, and that is to improve those healths. So let's talk a little bit more on thinking bigger. So one thing I want to, at Go Wellness, we like to inspire is really helping people learn from the past and create a bigger future. So if you look at this diagram here, talks about, a lot of people dwell on the past, and they think they need to continue to do kind of the same thing that they've been doing to get to the future. Whereas if you look into the future and say, okay, well, what I'm doing right now, presently, this is what I need to do to accomplish that future goal. So really what I want you guys to do in your minds is think about, and we use the term 10x, and that doesn't necessarily mean, 10 times your income or the amount of patients you're seeing, but really 10 times your thinking, your clinical results. You can get those 10 times your teamwork. So even if you just have one person in your team, how can you connect better with them? How can you communicate better with them? What are some barriers that you're seeing that you're not overcoming? So identify those. And now let's see, okay, well, ideally in the future, what's that relationship look like? What's it look like if I come into work, my front desk or my care coordinator is 100% invested, and she is, before I even say a word, she's following up with leads that didn't close from the dinner talk the night before, or she's following up with patients that they came in for an ROF and maybe we didn't finalize their close process, and she's following up with those and creating an amazing experience. If she's not, what do I need to do to make sure that's happening? And if she is, great. Okay, what's the next step? How can we look further into the future and see what we can do? 10xing relationships. I think this is huge, and that's something that we've learned over the last, over just the last month of working with other professionals in our field and seeing how we can learn from them, how they can learn from us, and really finding symbiotic relationships that can help us grow this mission of helping 1 billion people by 2050. So look at those, see how technology, that's another thing that sometimes we get caught up on, what's this cool little gadget and tool and how it's going to help someone. Really, when you're looking at technology, look at it as how you can expand your help, not necessarily just looking at it as minimally minded, and you can maybe treat another condition or treat this a little bit better. Look at it a lot bigger, and I'm not saying those are bad, but sometimes we buy these little tools and it's like they work great, but at the end of the day you use them once, and then they go on the back burner because that's not your priority, that's not your vision, that's not your mission. So make sure when you're looking at implementing new technology, make sure it's going to align with what your mission is, align with who you're trying to help and how you're trying to help them. Because if it's not going to, you're not going to use it. It's going to be a waste of an investment. But when you can see a certain technology, whether it's stem cells, whether it's a laser, or whatever that is, make sure that you're not pigeonholing yourself into thinking too small and minutely. and look at, technology. I look at Biome as, it sounds really cool. I'm going to test it out, but that could be game changing for us planning nutrition for patients. They look at the microbiome, they look at the gut, or they look at your genetics, and they say, okay, this is what you need ideally. Just a fair warning. There's, if you guys decide to go do that test, apparently with Naveen, he actually was told he could eat more gluten. Yes, he's not. I guess he's not European descent, and so doesn't necessarily have that big gluten intolerance that most of us do as European descents. But he was trying to lose weight. He was really cutting carbs and trying to follow more of a traditional diet to lose weight, and he was just stuck. His test results came back and he needed to increase his complex carbs. He actually did that, increased complex carbs. He lost 5 pounds within a month without really any effort, according to him. And you can listen to that on the podcast. But I thought, when you look at technologies, that can be some really incredible tools that if you're hitting plateaus with patients, you can fine tune that really well. So, and you guys all heard us talk about creating a unique experience, and I think this is so key. One thing that we've, in our clinics, we've kind of gone away from, at least in my clinic in St. George, we have a lot of patients that are on our wellness programs that'll go away for the summer because it gets really, really deathly hot here. It'll be like 115 plus in a lot of cases in the summer, and so we don't do a lot of our wellness classes over the summer. We still try to create an amazing experience though, and so when they leave, we still have check-in calls. We're still following up with them. We're still having an amazing, outstanding relationship with them. But now we're working on getting our classes back implemented because we're getting in the fall time. People are starting to come back, and we're really excited because we can still continue to have that more transformative care model compared to just a commodity where someone's coming in, they pay for an individual service, they come in, they get the service, they leave. That is, you're doing that as a commodity. You want to have more of a transformative experience, have something that's structured that helps them accomplish their goals, especially when you're getting into your ROFs or you're getting into the process of discussing with patients how how you can influence someone to get to that next stage is really helping them visualize what their health looks like in the future. I think a lot of times we get caught up on going through our wellness plans and saying, okay, well, you're going to get 20 acupuncture treatments and 20 herbal consults and 15 of these and 10 of these. Patients don't care about that. They care about what that's going to do for them. So when you're saying you're going to get 20 acupuncture treatments, what are those acupuncture treatments going to do for them individually, and what can they accomplish with those? All right, so you're going to have 20. We have all the acupuncture that we expect you to need over the next 6 months. This is really going to help address, you have some different hormone imbalances. We're going to help fine-tune the hormones with some of those specific points, as well as some of that joint pain and different arthritis conditions you have. While we're working on your nutrition, we're also going to be addressing those with your with acupuncture visits. Now, the best part about that is you should start to feel a lot more energized. Your hormones get in balance. You're going to lose some of the pain should decrease dramatically over the next few months, and then you're going to be back to whatever their motivating factor is. So back to playing with your grandkids or back to work. A lot of those things. We just had a patient come back, which I hope you guys have had a chance to watch the testimonial video we posted. It's on our East-West page, but it's a COPD patient that did stem cells. He had nebulized an IV. He came back 8 weeks later, and he did a testimonial video and talks about how his pulmonologist said that he had been able to, he heard air moving through his lungs for the first time in 3 years. The guys felt a lot more energized. He's taken out the trash, which he hasn't been able to do for about a year or so, his wife said. So that was really cool. We just followed up with him on Friday this last weekend. On Friday, Dr. Oakton gave him a call just as a check-in, and it's been about 4 or 5 weeks since his second infusion. He said, "Hey, how's it going?" "Oh yeah, I went back to work last week." This guy, he owns his own business, but he's still involved in it, and he likes to be a part of it, but he hasn't been able to work for about 3 years. And he went back into work for a full work week, and he was just ecstatic. He's like, "I'm doing awesome. I'll see you guys again in another 5 weeks." And so he is, that's just really exciting to see, and that's transformative for him. So when you guys are sitting down with your patients and you're looking at a plan of care for them, the biggest piece of advice I can give you is make sure that how you're influencing them is going to impact their health for the future. And so if you aren't creating that bigger future for them, when you're explaining that, you're not going to be able to close as effectively as you should, but then B, you're not going to be able to help that person as effectively as you should. So make sure that you're painting that picture of what that life looks like when they have transformed that health. It sounds like Reagan just hopped on.
Hey,
Reagan, how you doing?
Hey, I was just appreciating what you're saying. Amen.
All right. Yeah, we're talking about creating a unique experience here. So some of the process, and I know everyone has kind of their unique individual ways that they explain this, but when you're creating your process with functional medicine, you want to make sure it's personalized. You get the lab testing and you get to the root cause of the problem. But then find those, you can either use 4 or 5 key components. And this is the easiest, most effective way to explain it to a patient, because then it resonates, it makes sense. So we use gut health and detoxification, balancing hormones, brain optimization and brain health, exercise, and nutrition. Those are like our 5 key foundational pieces for someone's health. And so if you don't have those 5 key foundations identified, I would work on that, and you can use ours. Obviously, that's what we found to be essential, but you can always make some. You can make it your own. I love, so hopefully, Michelle, you don't mind me sharing this, but I love the FRESH acronym that you guys came up with. I think that's really cool. You made it your own, but it's the same type of concept. When we're looking at the root cause, obviously you have to look at all these different systems internally. So you got to make sure there's no infections. You got to resolve gut dysbiosis, identify any hormone imbalances, food sensitivities. You got to look at those. Look at how you can correct inflammation, and supporting your detoxification and enzyme pathways. That is ultimately how you're going to achieve success with functional medicine. Reagan.
Yep, right here.
You want to talk about the 4 Ps?
Yeah, I think this is really where medicine's moving towards. And for those of you who are on more of the cutting edge, and a lot of you on this webinar are, if you look at where medicine's going, it's got to be patient specific. I just met with a patient this morning. I apologize, I'm filling in for one of our providers, and so I just met with him, and his biggest frustration was he goes to the doctor and he says, "Oh, my knees hurt." The doctor says, "Oh, here's some Celebrex, let's do a steroidal injection." And then he goes the next time and he's like, "Oh, I think I might have gout in my foot." And the doctor says, "Okay, well, here's 2 prescriptions for gout, and take these medications, and if it works, then that means you had gout." So it wasn't patient specific. It was just sort of like very vague, and the doctor did not really care about diving in. And so we want it to be very patient specific. You know, I'm meeting with him. I'm like, yeah, we're going to look at these hormones. We're going to do stem cells for your knees and your ankle, and we're doing it for his back. But we're also going to dig in, and we're going to make it very specialized for your particular conditions. And that's what patient specific means. That's where functional medicine really can give you an edge on a patient, is because it allows you to get very customized in your presentation. Predictive, the second P, is the most fun. This is where we start predicting illness before they ever arrive, and a lot of people, you know, we can give them the idea, and that's why our paperwork is based around a predictive medical model. For those of you who are using our new patient paperwork, you'll notice that we ask questions like, you know, what will happen in the next 3 years if this problem's not taken care of? And most of our patients, you know, they'll need surgery, they'll be on more medications. Some of our patients have even said they'll be dead. And so this is where the predictive nature comes very handy. But even what's more important than that is when we start running labs that analyze underlying patterns and underlying imbalances, like the new test that we're running with Biome. I mean, they can look at how the genetics of the bacteria in your gut are influencing your overall health. And then you can predict what foods or what lifestyle behaviors are triggering different disease patterns. Another predictive form of medicine is genomics. And so hopefully all of you are participating in the Genetics Summit, Interpreting Your Genetics Summit right now. It started yesterday, but just a phenomenal resource, because now instead of just having this concept that, you know, using genetics can actually help us, you know, predict certain diseases, now we know for a fact that this can happen. And you can actually look at your genetics and you can say, okay, well, what type of exercise should you be doing? Do you have better output? You know, are you someone who needs more endurance training, more strength training? What's better for your cardiovascular system? What's worse? What's your risks? Are you more at risk for, you know, autoimmunity or Alzheimer's disease or diabetes? And so if you can look into the future and be predictive about what's around the next bend, then, you know, for me, that's been a game changer, because then I can really specify what diseases I want. And then I can make it preventative. And so preventative is the next of the 4 Ps. And preventative is, you know, this is where we actually start bringing in lifestyle medicine. And, you know, the lifestyle medicine is really where we start driving in new habits. We help giving our patients new ability to, you know, instead of just taking things out of their diet, we help them put things back in. That's how we can prevent disease. The other preventative aspect of it is getting patients to actually be more proactive. The only way we can prevent disease is first to know what's coming up, so that's the predictive stage. But then the preventative model is where we take people and we actually give them the tools so that they can prevent those. It's one thing to know that you're more prone to get diabetes, but it's another thing to actually do something about it so that the diabetes never shows up. And then the final P is purpose-driven. And I think this is the biggest thing. Many of you have heard my interviews with Dan Sullivan. His goal is to live to be 156. I had Naveen Jain on my podcast, and you know, his goal is to help 1 billion people, make disease optional for 1 billion people. And you know, that's a big purpose. But I don't think that there's any reason to practice functional medicine or to like give our patients a new perspective on life if they don't have a deeper purpose. And so everything in healthcare needs to be moving towards this purpose-driven model where people actually create meaning behind health, because a lot of times the context is missing. They know the content, they know that they need to, you know, stop drinking beer, they need to, you know, quit eating sugar, they need to start eating more vegetables, but until there's a purpose behind it, there's really no engine in this whole model. Functional medicine does not work just because you're brilliant. You know, I prefer having functional medicine providers who are new and fresh because they don't know everything, and they don't overwhelm their patient, and they meet the patient where they are much better. I mean, that's what we're having to do with a lot of our providers, is just reining them back into meeting a patient where they are. And really the biggest thing you can do for your patients, if you want to inspire them with functional medicine, is make it purpose driven. I mean, that's the bottom line there. So so those are the 4 P's of functional medicine. And you know, I see functional medicine as more of a transformative healthcare system, whereas right now our healthcare system is more of a reactive healthcare system. And when I say transformative, that's why, you know, my book is called Your Health Transformation. But, you know, instead of a transaction where you go in and you have a fee per service type of clinic operation, that's a transactive experience. A transactive healthcare is, you know, I need surgery on my back and the doctor's going to do a fusion. That's a transaction. It's more commodity based. But when I talk about transformative healthcare, this is where you really start inspiring people at a much deeper level, so that they start realizing what's causing their symptoms, what it's doing to their life, you know, how it's affecting their relationships, their family, the people they love. And then also, you know, they can start to understand that there's more than just this physiological imbalance that needs to be restored, but there's also the psychological, the structural. That's where structural acupuncture is very key. But then I think the most important thing that starts happening is they have this emotional and spiritual awakening once you can identify those things for them. So when you're looking at your patients in a functional medicine model, you know, the symptoms are just the tip of the iceberg. It's the lowest level of physician treats symptoms as they arise. And I know it's easier for us. We just say, okay, we're just going to do a nutritional visit today, and we're not really going to talk about an overall program. It's very simple for us to just keep putting those things off. But man, the sooner you can stop your patients where they are and really start talking to them about all the diseases and all the factors in their life, even though their heart disease is managed, or, you know, their fibromyalgia is managed with their Cymbalta, or their diabetes is managed with their metformin, whatever it is, if you can help them stop for just a minute and say, man, what if we were to actually address the underlying cause? Would that make your life better? And what if these underlying causes, not only would they get rid of your symptoms, but what if they actually made you feel better and made you have better energy and better vitality, more libido? You know, what if those things could actually change? What would that do to your life? How would that affect your family? What would your future look like? Would you actually want to live to be, you know, 156 or 200 or whatever the age is? Because, you know, I was talking to a patient yesterday, and he was in his 70s, and he said, you know what, I don't feel old, and I'm really happy about that. And he said, in fact, my father-in-law is 97, and all my father-in-law is obsessing about right now is how he can stay alive. But then I went to church, and I actually talked to one of his church members, who said that the church member was 90, just turned 91, and the 91-year-old is just looking for a way out. All he wants to do, he said, man, I had no idea being this old was this hard. So the contrast between the 97-year-old who's taken care of himself his entire life, all he's looking for is more answers to live to be as old as he possibly can and just enjoy life to its fullest. And then you take that 91-year-old, and he said, man, every day I wake up depressed that I haven't died yet. And, you know, it's just a drastic contrast. So this is where that purpose comes into place. But this is also where you and I need to start stimulating the conversation so that people can, you know, maybe have some wisdom to share. I mean, imagine if we had a bunch of 150-year-olds walking around. Imagine the wisdom they could impart on society. And not only that, but just a grounding force. And it could really show us what's capable. Not everyone's going to want this. Maybe like 0.0001% of the population would ever want that, but man, the only way we can ever get them there for those people who want it is for us to find out, well, what are the inflammatory imbalances, what hormonal imbalances exist, do we need to do some detoxification, and if so, what type? Is this heavy metals? Do we need to detox the liver? Do we need to get their filtration systems working better in their kidneys? Are their lungs full of toxins and yeast and pollution. What is it? Is there mitochondrial dysfunction? And I'm telling you, with the mitochondrial dysfunction and the EMFs, this is a big deal right now. And we're going to have a guest on our podcast in October, but he's one of the leading experts in EMFs, and he thinks with the 5G, once the 5G starts rolling out, this is where we're going to start looking at EMFs the same way we look at cigarettes now. Right now we think it's benign because we can't smell it, we can't see it. EMFs are everywhere. They've always, these electromagnetic fields, are naturally occurring, but the level of the exposure is really messing up our mitochondria. We have to look at toxic chemical exposure, toxic emotions, and then of course address the structural, the immune imbalances, look at digestion, and then look at their overall microbial imbalances. So, I think with functional medicine, the beauty of it is if you're doing this correctly, then the whole purpose of your existence is to get to the underlying cause, to correct it to the best of your abilities. And then that way you can start, really tackling healthcare, because, Cade and I, we made a new mantra for Go Wellness, and by 2050, we're jumping on Naveen, but we put a date to it. But by 2050, we want to have 1 billion people who live without pain and live without chronic disease. And that's pretty substantial, because right now, 8% of people in the world, there's only 8% of us who don't have either pain or chronic disease. So there's still so much more room that we've got to go. And by 2050, who knows, we probably have 10 billion people. And so, that's still, if you take, how can we have 10% of those that have no pain, no chronic disease? That's going to require all of us, pushing in the same direction. So, yeah, any insights you have on that, Cade, or anything you'd like to add?
No, that was beautiful. No, I think that was great. I talked to him a lot about Biome at the beginning, and how the technology is so amazing. And so the more of us that send in our samples, the smarter and smarter that artificial intelligence system can get, and so can pump out some really cool data. Yeah, and so I think yeah, you nailed it there.
Okay, cool. So I just wanted to tell everyone thanks for responding to the email that I sent out. We're just looking for ways we can help you guys more. Our October event, we've been laying this huge foundational piece for you. And so I think what you're going to find when you come to the event in October, and do not miss this, I don't care where you live or even if your kid's getting married, but when we dive in on the Saturday and Sunday sessions, okay, maybe that was a little harsh, but really, we're going to have it very structured so that you guys are just going to go dive deep into how to address some of the deeper causes of thyroid, and how to look at that, how to market it, how to put overall programs together, because still thyroid, hypothyroidism is one of the most prevalent diseases in our society right now. The #1 cause worldwide is still iodine deficiency, but in the United States, the #1 cause is autoimmunity. And so I think what you'll find is when you start treating thyroid patients, it's kind of like pulling up potatoes. For those of you who grew up on Idaho, like Cade and I did, on a farm, you start pulling up one potato, and there's always another potato, another potato, another potato. And that's what you'll find is that your patients, if they have one autoimmune disease, their chances of having additional autoimmune disease triple. So we want to give you just a very clear format of how to treat it clinically, and then we'll have another room where we're going to train you on the business side of it, how to close wellness programs, how to put your marketing plan together, how to have pre-education on your website, how to have videos that go out. So I think this will be our best event ever.
Yeah, it always is. Everyone gets better and better.
Yep. Great. So this is it. How to master the thyroid, how to market, create programs around it, perform an ROF. Yep, October 13th is going to be the stem cell training. on that Friday, and then the Saturday and Sunday. Sunday we're going to go through. Cade, what do you think? Do you think we should kick off the event doing our wildly important goals and showing them how to put a scoreboard into their office, or should we do that on Sunday? Or what do you guys want? Do you like starting out with the big goal and the big vision, or do you like to get your brain warmed up before we jump into writing out the structure?
All right, let's see here. So after you have the info,
Okay, beautiful.
that's the consensus here.
Yeah.
So after we get our brains warmed up, get an idea of how what tools we have, and then we come up with a big vision.
Perfect.
So yeah, probably on Sunday is when we'll dive into the wigs.
Yeah, Sunday is going to be big. We did a huge training for the office yesterday, and man, we're off to best month ever. We're right on track. A lot of our clients are doing the same. So yeah, once we created that big vision and how we're going to accomplish it, and we see, oh, it's not that hard. We're making it happen. So really appreciate you guys. Appreciate everything you're doing. Keep up the amazing work. I was asked to be on I was interviewed yesterday for the patient attraction, new patient attraction summit, and it's going to go to thousands of providers. And the cool thing about the moderator that she afterwards she told me, she's like, man, you have a completely different, there's a lot of things that were congruent, but your overall philosophy of how to attract patients is so different than anyone that we've actually interviewed for this whole summit. So she really appreciated it. So if you guys get a chance, we'll be sending out a link. That summit's going to be out in October, but you'll get some great insights on how to attract new patients. But from what she was telling me, we are probably the most cutting edge in our marketing and our ability to get new patients into the door. So for those of you who are not using the marketing, you need to start picking Cade's brain or Cambria's brain, and let's get a plan set up for you.
All right. I wanted to finish it with procrastination. So make sure you guys are moving things forward. I like this one.
That's great.
All right. We love you guys.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.